and welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will cover the MSc in Food Security, and we are joined by our programme lead, Professor Gareth Jenkins. We're also joined by Kirsty McCall from our PGT administration team. So we should hopefully be able to cover all your questions today. We've received a number of questions, so we'll do our best to cover all of those. If you do have any further questions, you can use the chat box on the session and we'll keep an eye on that. We'll also use that to post any helpful links so that you have those for ease. If after the session you have any further questions, you can contact the administration team for the programme and they'll do their best to answer your queries there. We are recording the session today, so that link will be made available to you afterwards, probably once all our sessions are complete. So you'll not get that immediately, but that will come. So as we only have a short session, I think it'd be good to get started on our questions, if that's all right. So our first one for you, Gareth, I would like to ask about the experimental course on this project and whether the project will teach patent writing.
Okay, well, welcome to everyone who's watching this, and we obviously hope to see you in Glasgow later in the year. So firstly, about this specific question, the second part of the question is easy to answer. No, I'm sorry, we don't teach anything about patent writing. It's really nothing in the remit of this program. As far as experimental work is concerned, then just to go back to structure of our program, our structure consists of 3 compulsory courses in the first semester, and then a number of optional courses in the second semester, along with a project then, which is done largely in the summer months. So in the compulsory courses, there is no experimental work. Experimental work is possible in the optional courses if students choose to do it. So it's not essential. So we have a number of courses which involve experimental work, laboratory work. So for example, molecular laboratory skills is a 40-hour essentially laboratory course. Plant genetic engineering, likewise, similar sort of duration of laboratory course. So in addition to that, then for the project, there is the possibility to do laboratory work, experimental work, or any sort of practical work, if that is what the student wants to do. It's not essential again. So one of the 2 key features of our program are its breadth. We try to cover, everything across the board in food security, and also its choice. So we have the compulsory courses, but then there are the optional courses, and there is the project, where students then can have their own input into what they want to do. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Would we be able to do research based on molecular genetics?
Yes. So again, back to previous question, the sort of practical work we have, laboratory practical work we have, is principally molecular genetics. So molecular laboratory skills is about DNA cloning, for example. Plant genetic engineering is very much, molecular genetics of plants. There is the possibility to do some projects in the more molecular genetic area. So from the practical point of view, yes, it's possible to do some molecular genetics. Again, it's not essential for those who don't want to do it.
Thank you. What research area is the faculty most interested in?
Okay, our faculty is an extremely large faculty. It's actually not called a faculty, it's called a college. So if you go onto the university web pages and you go to the College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences, you will see all of the different research areas. It's actually a huge college. I think it's possibly, I hesitate to say this, but it's maybe even the biggest life science research in Europe. So, it really is very, very large and diverse. So the college is interested in everything from, aspects of clinical and medical research, veterinary research, and then through the whole of the life sciences, from ecology, animal biology, plant science, biochemistry, genetics, so the whole spectrum is there. So it would be wrong to say that we have a particular research theme. It's just very diverse and very, very strong throughout the whole of the life sciences and things that relate to food security.
Thank you. Will there be any opportunities for field trips abroad?
We've never done that, so I think the short answer is probably no.
Nice and easy one. Can you tell us more about the courses of the programme?
Right, how long have you got?
You've got 24 minutes on the clock.
Right, so I think that the first thing to say about the courses of the programme is if you go to the programme webpage, the Food Security PGT webpage, you will find there the information on all of the courses. So I would strongly encourage people to look at the food security web pages because they tell what the food security programme is all about and the structure of the programme and its constituent courses. So just a little bit about the courses. As I mentioned previously, in the first semester, there are 3 compulsory courses. And the idea of these courses is to give a perspective on the whole of food security. So the first introductory course talks about the general issues in food security, the problem of global food security that is feeding the growing global population in an era of climate change, which makes it more difficult. So the broad aspects of global food security, including the sort of more social and economic aspects of it. The second compulsory course is about crops and crop production. The third compulsory course is about animal production and food from animals. So they are, essentially the full breadth of the food security programme as introductory courses and 1/3 of the masters. Then the optional courses, I think at the last count there were around about 10 or 11 optional courses. So we have, for example, insects, which deals with aspects of animal and crop food security. We have courses that are more focused on animals, so global animal production, and then a course called production of food from animals. So we have, keeping the animals, if you like, and then making food from them. Then we have courses relating to crops. So we have crop biotechnology applications, plant genetic engineering, for instance, which are focused on crop production. There are also other options. So for example, you can do an option on the more socio and economic aspects of food security involving the business school. There are also courses relating to commercialization, etc., etc. So if you go on, onto the food security webpage, you'll see a list of all of the available courses and some information about them. So I think hopefully that will answer that question for the moment. But if people have more specific questions about any particular course, I'm obviously happy to answer them.
Thank you. When should I contact my supervisor to determine the title of my thesis? Right.
So by thesis, really, it's about the project. So the project occupies 1/3 of the programme, and yes, it is producing a thesis on some aspect of food security that may be experimentally based, or maybe an investigative dissertation, for example. So we produce we don't call it a thesis because it's not like a PhD thesis, but it's a pretty substantial 5,000 to 10,000 word report on the topic of the project. So we introduce the projects really towards the end of the first semester. We suggest to students possible titles for their project, and they normally would contact their supervisors at somewhere in the beginning of the second semester. However, it's valuable to think about possible areas that students would be interested in right from the very beginning of the program. Then you can start talking to people about whether there are possibilities in those areas. Obviously, we can't do projects on everything, but if you make it known relatively early what you're interested in, then we can discuss what the possibilities might be.
Thank you. Are there any preparations that I can make before beginning my studies?
Yes. So from the studies point of view, what you should maybe do is read as much as you can as background about food security. A good place to do that is to go online to the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So what the FAO do is they produce lots and lots of reports. So for example, usually an annual report about the state of food security in the world, for instance. So if you go to those, if you go to the FAO webpage, you go to publications and just look for any report that you find interesting. Might be on your particular country, or whether you're interested in animals or crops, or just want to get some general background to food security. Going onto the FAO webpage and their reports would be a very good background to what the program is about.
Thank you. And what can students expect in their first semester?
So first semester, what you can expect firstly is getting used to the Glasgow weather. It's probably different from anything you've experienced before, so that's one thing that you need to get used to. And just living in a different country. The main thing, or one of the main things I think, is the transition from undergraduate to master's study. In undergraduate study, you sit in lectures for hours and hours and hours every day, and then at the end of the course, you're asked to sit, written examinations and basically, repeat everything you were taught in the lectures. Master's study is different. There are fewer contact hours. It's more about directing your learning with the emphasis on your learning. So there is more focus on independent study, finding out and reading about the subject that you're studying. So that is a transition that some students find a bit more difficult. They think, well, why haven't I got 10 hours of lectures today? What do I do? Rather than being spoon-fed the reading, you have to go and find out yourself about things. So that's a transition. Of course, we provide guidance about that transition, and students don't find it ultimately a problem, but it's something that you need to get used to. So that's a big thing that which is different in master's study. In terms of the first semester courses, as I mentioned, we have the 3 compulsory courses: Introduction to Food Security, Food Security Fundamentals Crops, Food Security Fundamentals Food of Animal Origin. So those are the things that you will be getting to grips with in terms of the actual program.
Great, thank you. And can you tell us a bit more about the assessments?
Right, so the assessments are quite diverse because people have different skills. So for example, somebody might be great at writing, but useless at giving an oral presentation. Or somebody might be great at an oral presentation and useless at producing some sort of report. So we don't want to just have one sort of assessment. We have diverse assessments to test people's, and allow people to show their different abilities, if you like. By and large, we don't have written examinations. There is only one optional course, I think, which has an actual written test in it, maybe 2 optional courses that have written tests in them. But most of the assessments are oral presentations, producing a poster and talking about your research poster, writing a report, writing a short written assignment. What else? Obviously your project, when you come to do your project, you have a project report, again, a presentation, a discussion about your project, and so on. So, quite diverse assessments rather than one particular type of assessment.
Okay, thank you. We've got a few questions on our Q&A chat box, so if it's okay, I'll read out some of those. Can you tell me more about the lab courses for this project?
Okay, so the lab courses, we have firstly molecular laboratory skills, which, as I mentioned, is essentially a 40-hour lab course where people grow some E. coli, if I remember. I've not done the course myself, I hasten to add. But you grow some E. coli, you isolate, I think, plasmid DNA from the E. coli, you cut it with a restriction enzyme, you take out the little bit of DNA that you've produced, and you then introduce it into another vector for cloning multiple copies of it again in E. coli. And I think you then do a test to show that you've really cloned the right piece of DNA. And I think you also do some sequencing, or you're given a sequence of it. So it's basically, as the name suggests, molecular laboratory skills. Reasonably basic, but gives you some experience of doing molecular biology. Plant genetic engineering. It's not possible in the duration of our short course to genetically modify a crop, which takes months, if not years. So what we do is show you the required skills to do plant genetic engineering. So introducing DNA into plants, and in particular testing whether plants have become genetically modified by looking at their DNA and looking at the proteins which are expressed in the plant. So again, molecular biology. And then those are the main, or the only really laboratory experimental courses, unless you do some project which might be related to laboratory experimentation.
Thank you. Another one we've got here is, please tell us about the job prospects after completing the programme.
Right, okay, good question. Food security is becoming a very big deal internationally. As you will learn from the programme, the global population is growing, there is increasing demand for food, and there is a lot of interest in government organisations, in various other sorts of organisations, in companies, in trying to address the problems of food security. So there are potentially jobs available in all of those sectors. And if you go onto the internet and you look for jobs in food security, just search food security opportunities or jobs, you'll see the range of things that are out there, as I say, with governments, government organisations, the media, companies of various sorts, food manufacturing companies, companies that sell food, etc., etc. So lots of organisations and companies involved in food production. We also find that our students, quite a number of them, go into further study. So some do PhDs, some do different master's programs. And we try to find as much as we can information about the destinations of our students. But the problem is that we have quite a lot of students, and a lot of them, when they leave behind their university email, we lose contact with them. So we don't know what they end up doing. But I know that from those that we have kept in contact with, there are people involved in that range of organisations which I just mentioned, or who are doing further study. So there are quite a lot of opportunities. I mean, we're not a jobs agency. We don't find jobs for students. It's up to the student to find jobs. The university does have a careers organisation which helps to a limited extent, but it's really equipping you for the job market and trying to give you the skills and the confidence and the knowledge and understanding that employers are looking for. So that's really what we're about.
Thank you. Another one we have here is, does the college provide in-campus placements?
Not as such. I mean, I don't know what sort of placements that maybe is about, but if you're doing, a full-time master's program, there isn't anything really that you can do outside the program, because you should be, focusing on your studies. So in terms of placements, then what we do obviously is provide opportunities for projects. So students are placed in inverted commas with a supervisor, which may be to do laboratory work or may be to do an investigative dissertation.
Great, thank you. Just another one that came through there. I would like to ask if it is possible for the food security project to be held offline next year? If possible, what are the optional themes for the project?
Right. So firstly, offline. So the project is basically an investigative piece of work, either in a laboratory or not in a laboratory. Clearly, if you're doing any sort of laboratory project, then no, it can't be done offline. If it's an investigative dissertation, it can be done online to a limited extent. So in COVID times, for example, we've had students who are not in Glasgow able to do their investigative dissertations. But I think the expectation next session is that students will be in Glasgow. So there won't be a requirement to do the project online, although obviously online work will be, part of the investigative work that students do. The projects are diverse, so you can do projects in really quite a range of topics. We have, as I've mentioned, laboratory-orientated projects, which tend to be more biochemical or molecular genetic, and more with crops than animals, just through the nature of the people that offer the projects. The investigative dissertations, again, can be quite diverse. So, for example, let me think about students I'm supervising this year. So somebody is interested in food waste and is researching food waste in UK supermarkets in particular. We've had in the past people interested in food waste in China. We have, students who are interested in Nigerian agriculture, so the conflicts between farmers and herdsmen. So that's another sort of project. So there's diverse projects relating to food and food production. So let's see, food fraud is an interest, with some people, contamination of foods. I've got a project student working on milk in China and issues of safety and public perception of milk safety in China. So really quite, diverse projects. So a lot of projects are suggested by supervisors in Glasgow, and then there's opportunity for other projects which are more directed by the student and supervised by a member of staff.
Thank you. Someone has asked, are there many Chinese students on the programme?
Yes, I would say 90% of our students are Chinese. There's a lot of interest in food security in China, and also food safety. For anyone Chinese out there, I'm aware that the word in Chinese for safety and security is, I think, the same. So this program is not just about food safety, it is about food security, of which food safety is a part. So we're really dealing with the whole global issue of food security, how to provide food to the ever-growing global population in an era of climate change. So there are lots of aspects to that: animal food production, crop production, food safety, etc., etc. So there are elements of food safety, but it's really a food security program. So yes, we have a lot of interest from China. Usually about 90% of our students are from China.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions that we've covered in the chat box, as well as that were submitted beforehand. If anyone has any additional questions, we do have a small bit of time left if you pop them into the chat. I don't know if Gareth, if there's anything else that you think's not been covered that you would like to add in.
I don't think so. When we've covered quite a lot of topics there, I thought that was pretty good. So we've talked about the course structure and a little bit about constituent courses, a little bit about experimental work and about projects and choice of projects. Mentioned a little bit also about the nature of master's study. It's increasingly a focus on directed learning rather than spoon-fed lectures. Our assessments are diverse. I think one thing I would say is that this year we have 45 students. Don't know how many it will be in the coming session. And by and large, I think our students always are pretty happy. They enjoy our program and we get lots of very positive feedback. We don't have, I don't think any problems with our students. Our students are happy and they enjoy our program. I think the other thing I would say about our program is that our students are extremely diverse. So we have, food security is a very diverse subject, going right from socioeconomic aspects through crop and animal food production to things like food safety and so on and so on. So we don't expect to have students who know everything about all of those topics. It's almost impossible. So we have students who have some knowledge, relevant knowledge from their undergraduate courses. We have a lot of students who have a food engineering background or some aspects of food science background. We have students who have maybe done biotechnology or agriculture. We have some economics and politics students sometimes. We have all sorts of different people that are interested in food security. The key thing is that they have to be interested in food security and they can come from pretty much any background. We accept almost anyone in terms of their undergraduate qualifications, but as long as they're interested in food security. So our students are very diverse. I think that's an important thing to say. And our first 3 compulsory courses are introductory. So if you've never done anything about crops in the past, don't worry about it. You will have an introductory course about it. Likewise, with animals or anything else. So, diverse background of students and pretty much happy students, I would say. So, which is what we want, of course.
That's great. Kirsty, I don't know if you've got anything that you would like to add in, or if you think everything's been covered there.
I think Gareth's done a great job covering everything.
Perfect. Well, we are just coming up to 1 o'clock our time. So we'll wrap up there. I think you have done a great job, Gareth, in covering a lot of things in such a short period of time. Okay. Like I said, if you do think of any questions after this, please get in touch with our administration team, because they'll do a great job in redirecting your inquiry, making sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. And we have recorded this session, so that link will be with you shortly. So thanks again, everybody, for your time. Please take care of yourself, and we hope to see you all very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.